hello and welcome back to FPL. With Old Man Phil, and I did not have the greatest of starts in my first game week here in FPL. The new season began with a few shock results and a lot of blanks for the players that I had selected. And I got to think about, did I make the correct decision to go without Salah and to go without Haaland? Well, what we do know is that Salah bagged a goal, albeit in the 95th minute. There might have been a lot of people upset if Salah had not scored that very late goal. But also Haaland bagged a couple in the away game at Wolves. Now, we expected Manchester City to win. I expected Haaland to get at least one in that fixture, but I did expect Wolves to put up a little bit more of a resistance than they did. Once they conceded the first one, they totally collapsed. On the plus side from that, Reinders got me 10 points, which has really helped in terms of the team overall performance. Without Reinders, it would have been a dreadful, dreadful performance. But the second thing that I did, I think, get right was to play my bench boost, because I have 17 points on my bench. It could have been better if Verbruggen had not conceded in the 95th minute. That would have got me another 4 points, taking me to 21. And then, of course, there's Konsa. Konsa lost 3 points with his red card. That would have been 24 on the bench. But I'll take 17 on the bench. My bench really saved me in this game week. At the moment, as you can see, I'm on 59 points. So where did it all go wrong for me? Did I make poor decisions? Well, I made actually a couple of very good decisions. One, to use my bench boost, which actually rescued my entire game week. And secondly, my last-minute decision to include Reinders in the team paid off. And I thought by playing Reinders that I would save money, which I could invest in Gyökeres. Arsenal had a tough fixture. I wasn't expecting Gyökeres and Saka to be bagging lots of points for me, but I was hopeful that they would get a return each in the game against Manchester United. Manchester United put up an absolutely fabulous performance, much better as a Manchester United fan than I could possibly have expected. So in terms of that result, I've got to be happy that United played well, but unhappy that they played well enough to restrict Arsenal to just one goal. And unfortunately, therefore, Saka and Gyökeres blanked. Saka and Gyökeres will be playing Leeds in the next game. So am I going to panic at this point? Wirtz was another one who let me down. Liverpool scored 4 and Wirtz played well, but unfortunately didn't get any returns. That's sometimes the way that it goes. I'm panicking now and thinking I've got to get rid of Wirtz. It's not going to happen. I picked this team for 6 game weeks. I didn't pick this team for 1 game week. And so I have to trust the decisions that I've made. I have 6 or 7 attacking players in that team. If you include Reinders, I've got 7 good attacking players. Unfortunately, they didn't perform on game week 1. That's very typical for me, but I'm not going to panic. Konsa has caused me to panic, but we'll come to that later. If we look at the 7 players that I actually selected in that game week that are attacking players, you can see on the pitch I've got Saka, Wirtz, Palmer, Reinders, Gyökeres, Watkins and Bowen. Watkins and Bowen, their teams played dreadfully. West Ham didn't turn up. What did I learn from that? Well, don't trust pre-season form. Bowen and West Ham were scoring goals quite nicely in pre-season. They looked good in pre-season, but they just simply did not turn up against Sunderland, and it was a poor result. And is Bowen going to blank for 6 game weeks? I don't think so. I've got to assume that Bowen will be involved in the goal action if West Ham, and I'm pretty sure West Ham will score goals in the next 4 or 5 game weeks. Watkins was let down by the passing ability of Aston Villa. But does it mean that in the next game week and the game week after that, Aston Villa are just going to be rolled over by teams? I don't think so. And I don't think that we're in a situation where we need to be even considering getting rid of Watkins. If you have players like Rodgers, Tielemans, I wouldn't panic either. It's just one of those game weeks, and Konsa getting sent off didn't help, but I didn't think Aston Villa looked very threatening at all. But we do have to look at Palmer. Palmer costs a lot of money. And do I want to keep trusting Palmer? Well, for the time being, I am going to. I don't think that he plays well enough in the number 10 role, and I think he's better when he's playing out wide. In the second half, Palmer would often drift out wide onto the left and seem to cause more problems when he was playing there. I'm not going to panic about Palmer yet, but I don't think playing in that central role suits him. I think because Chelsea are playing really narrow, when Palmer does get the ball between the lines, there's 3 or 4 players behind him. It's a constricted space in the centre, and he isn't able to show what he can do in a constrictive space. I don't think he's happy playing with his back to goal, which is what seemed to be happening quite a lot when he was picking up the ball. I'd prefer Palmer to be playing out wide. Is that going to happen? Probably not, because Chelsea are bringing in wingers, and so I think that he's going to be playing in that number 10 position. I am going to be keeping an eye on Palmer. For his price, he has to be, for me, playing a lot better than he did on the weekend. So Bowen and Palmer are the two that I really am concerned about. So whilst I can identify that I made 2 very good decisions, one playing the bench boost and the second one bringing in Reinders at the last minute, does it mean that the 6 other decisions that I made, or the 7 other decisions that I made, including Sarr, were poor decisions? Well, not necessarily. I am not going to be drawn into this panic, and there's a lot of movement of players going on among perhaps inexperienced FPL players who are just simply chasing points. A lot of FPL managers have brought in Ballard just because they happen to beat West Ham quite comfortably and he scored on the opening day. Is that a wise move? Probably not for me, and I'm certainly not thinking that I should be bringing in Ballard immediately. Semenyo getting a brace against Liverpool was also a shock. Am I rushing out now to bring in Semenyo? Probably not. I have to trust the team that I picked. I picked that team because I thought by spreading the money that I would have, and I do have, 7 good players, good attacking players who I'm expecting to get returns. I didn't pick this team for game week 1. I picked it for 5 game weeks, and I have to trust the process now. It's a gamble not having Haaland. It's a gamble not having Salah. But I do have players there in Saka, Gyökeres, Wirtz, Watkins, Bowen, Palmer and Sarr, as well as Reinders, who are capable of getting returns. Is Reinders a must-have in your team now? I don't think so, because I'm also playing Pep Roulette. Everybody who plays this game knows about Pep Roulette. And when Rodri is fit, will Reinders continue to start? I expect him to start against Tottenham, but will he start getting less minutes? Will he be benched? Sometimes probably, but we have to wait and see what Pep decides when it comes to team selection. I have Sarr on the bench in order to cover Reinders, so I don't see that as a major problem for me. But if you're thinking that because he got 10 points and he played particularly well, that you need to bring in Reinders now, that he's a must for your team, then that's probably a poor decision in my opinion. But if you bring him in and he continues to bag points game after game, then it's a great decision. The problem with FPL is you don't know what's going to happen. And my worries of Bowen and Palmer might be unjustified. West Ham playing Chelsea next week might fight out a 3-3 draw or a 2-2 draw, and Bowen and Palmer bag a brace apiece. I just don't know. I can't predict how football matches in the Premier League are going to go, especially games like that. You'd expect Chelsea to steamroller them, but Chelsea didn't play particularly well, so that also might result in a surprise result. FPL is not about what happens in one particular game week. I had a bad week, and that's the way it goes. I am not going to change the philosophy overnight. One of the things that I have decided to do is to remove Konsa from my team. My first concern was that he was owned by a lot of managers and his price might fall if everybody gets rid of him. And then because of Villa's fixtures, an Aston Villa defender was crucial to the way I was thinking. I had to have an Aston Villa defender who I could just sit there for 6 games. The rest of the defence would then rotate around him. And yes, I could probably bench him for game week 2, but my concern is that would he get back into the team if Pau Torres comes in and has a very good game? Would Konsa then automatically come back into that team? And so I made a decision that I would do something very quickly and use my transfer, and I've just simply swapped over Konsa for Mings because I do need to have a steady Aston Villa defender over the next 5 game weeks. So it's very difficult at this moment in time to say whether or not I had a good or a bad game week. I was above average. That's all I can say at this moment. My rank is 3 million. I haven't had as bad a start to the season as this particular start. But on the plus side, I did use my bench boost at the right time. 17 points is much more than I normally get when I'm using my bench boost much later on. So I'm happy with that. And I'm happy with the inclusion of Reinders. And I also brought in Pedro Porro very late. So I think that was a good addition. I'm not going to say that I made bad decisions in terms of Haaland and Salah and the players that I brought in instead at this point. But if it's still the same after 4 or 5 game weeks, then I'm going to have to seriously consider wildcarding and starting afresh and looking at players who are actually performing well. But I do have faith in those 7 players, and I do believe that they are going to get returns in the next 5 game weeks. And that's why I'm not panicking. Certainly not going to panic with Wirtz. Certainly not going to panic with Saka. Gyökeres possibly is one that I might have to look at in the next few game weeks. But for the moment, I believe that Arteta is going to play him. He's not going to get 90 minutes. Havertz is going to play. But he's going to start, I believe, especially against Leeds. If he plays well against Leeds, bags a couple, then we've got a different story when it comes to Gyökeres. Watkins, I've just really got to hope that Villa start to play better than they actually played on day one. Bowen and Palmer, I am going to be keeping an eye on. West Ham don't look very good at the moment. They look brilliant in pre-season, but the pre-season form has not carried over. So Bowen, certainly I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Do I need to transfer him out maybe in a couple more game weeks? And Palmer, probably because of his price, is the one that I probably will move on quicker than any of the others. He doesn't play very well in that number 10 role. That's my belief. But I don't think that there's any need to panic with any of those players at this point in time. I'm just hoping that I have a better game week next week, and then worries will melt away. I think if we take a look at the top players in game week 1, we can see what's happening a little bit. A lot of people are going to be bringing in Reinders. Is that the right decision? It might be, but I would be very wary of doing that just simply on the basis of one game week where he scored 10 points. Pep Roulette will come into play. Against Wolves away, Manchester City were going to win. I didn't expect them to win 4-0. I didn't expect Wolves to fold in the way that they did. So Manchester City players, Haaland especially, has been transferred in by a number of managers, Reinders by probably more managers because of his price. He is going to be an asset, I think, through the season, but is he going to be playing 90 minutes every game? No, I don't think so. That's just simply not going to happen. Kudos was in and out of my team pre-season. Would I now consider bringing him in? Not yet. He's yet to prove himself. He got a couple of assists, and bless him, that's absolutely a magnificent start for him for his new club. But I'm not going to be just bringing him in on the basis of one good result, which was against Burnley. And we would have expected Tottenham to play well against Burnley, score goals, and that's exactly what they did. Richarlison is another one. I'm not going to be bringing in Richarlison, not yet anyway, because one game against Burnley does not make Richarlison a top pick. A lot of people were surprised that Semenyo got a couple of goals against Liverpool. Liverpool defensively do not look great at the moment, and Liverpool are going to have to outscore teams as they did against Bournemouth in order to get results. Out wide, Liverpool are going to be exploited. Their wing-backs look like they're playing way too high up the pitch, leaving two at the back. And in the Charity Shield, the Community Shield, we saw Munoz exploit that space out wide. And Bournemouth, although the goals they scored were through the middle in the main, it was because that Liverpool were lacking defenders at the back, and Semenyo's second goal was a perfect example of that, where he's just allowed to run at the Liverpool back two and scored an absolutely fabulous goal. Am I going to bring Semenyo in on the back of that? No. I believe in the players that I've picked. And so Semenyo, of course, is someone I'm going to be keeping a close eye on. Bournemouth's fixtures are not that bad. So we will keep an eye on him, but I'm not going to knee-jerk bring him in and use transfers that I don't have and take points off the small amount of points that I've already got. I'm going to trust the team. And then, of course, there's Chris Wood. Who expected him to get a brace on the opening day against Brentford? Brentford's defence and Brentford as a team have clearly suffered because of the transfer activity that's gone on. Wood is another one I'm just going to keep an eye on. Is he going to score 2 every week? I very much doubt it. But if he does start scoring goals on a regular basis, again, he's someone that I'm going to have to think about bringing in. And it may be that in game week 3, I might have to think about bringing Wood in instead of Gyökeres, especially if Gyökeres is not getting minutes. Ballard, the Sunderland defender, was the top player of the week, scoring 17 points. A lot of managers have just immediately brought him in. Am I going to follow suit? No. Is he going to score 17 points every week? Not at all. And I will be very, very surprised if Sunderland keep rolling over teams and Ballard keeps scoring, keeps getting clean sheets. I will be very, very surprised if that happens. And so I have just made the one transfer. I had to do it. I needed an Aston Villa defender, and I am not moving away from that thought, despite the fact that Alt Nuri got 9. I'm not going to waste transfers, cost myself FPL points at this stage. I'm going to run next week with the team that I already have set up. It's a good-looking team. Arsenal are at home to Leeds. I'm hoping that Gyökeres and Saka perform a little better. I'm hoping that Wirtz does a little better in terms of returns. He looked very good in terms of his play over the weekend. He played for 80-odd minutes, and I think he's made a good start, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to get assists in the main, and he's also going to get the odd goal. He is going to be an asset for FPL managers over this season, and I'm certainly not looking to get rid of Wirtz. Watkins, we have to give him another few games. We have to give Villa the chance to start scoring goals, as well as Chelsea, who blanked completely as a team, and therefore we have to give Palmer a few more goals in order to see if Chelsea are going to become a better team than they were on the opening day. And Bowen now becomes the one that I really have to focus on. If he blanks again in game week 2, do I still keep him? Do I bring in someone like Mateta, who's got good fixtures? Do I bring in Chris Wood instead of Bowen if Bowen blanks again next week? I'll just have to wait and see, play it by ear. But I'm certainly not going to panic. I'm certainly not going to move away from the team that I've selected. And those are my early thoughts. 59 points, well, I usually get 60 points or so in the opening game week, and that's how it's turned out this time. Just wait to see what happens in game week 2, and possibly even in game week 3, and then we will make adjustments. I do have transfers that I can use. I was always planning to wildcard around game week 6 or 7, and I'm going to have 5 or 6 transfers that I can use before that happens. So we will see. I do have some decisions to make in terms of who I will play. in game week 2 in the main 11. So I will make those decisions during the week, and then we'll do another deadline stream, and you can have a look at what the decisions are that I've made, why I've made them, and why I've not brought anybody else in apart from the one change that I've made. Conser didn't work out. We'll try Mings now, and hopefully he won't get injured or sent off in game week 2. Aston Villa's fixtures are really, really good. So he needs to be sitting there in my defence, someone I don't have to worry about rotating out of the team. And that's why I've made that decision to already bring him in. It was a straight swap, 4.5 million for 4.5 million. I did not want Conser's price to drop and then find that I couldn't bring Mings in. My advice to people at this point is don't panic. Just because you might have had a bad game week, then don't panic. You might have a better game week next time. This now is only game week 1. There are 37 game weeks to go. If you multiply 59 by 37, that's a lot of FPL points. We're not going to be doing too badly by the end of the season. Those of you who did pick the players that did well, absolutely fabulous result for you. I'm absolutely over the moon for you. One day I'm going to pick the correct players as well. But for now, I'm going to leave it there. It's just a knee-jerk reaction. I'm not unhappy. I know a lot of you thought I was taking a big risk leaving out Salah and leaving out Haaland. Even though by Saturday night I was almost in tears, it didn't turn out that bad in the end. It turned out like a regular game week 1 for me. And I'm pretty sure if I'd put Haaland in my team, he would have blanked as well. Thanks for watching. I'll be back on Friday. We'll do another deadline stream on Friday before the game kicks off on Friday night. And I'll explain my team and why I've chosen to select the 11 that I've chosen at that time. I'm really not sure who's going to start in the 11 at this point, but we'll have time to think about it in the week. If you love FPL and FM content and you love to see players suffering playing those games, then you are definitely watching the right video. And you're definitely watching the right content creator. So hit that subscribe button, click the bell, do all that good stuff that you can see. Help the channel to grow. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers now. Help us to get there. Be much appreciated. Thanks for watching. And if there's any big news, I will update you. But at the moment, there's no big news coming out of here. I would say to you, don't panic. Just do not change players who you believed in before game week 1. Keep believing in them. Keep believing in the system, in the strategy that you employed. It will work out in the end. All that remains to be said now is stay safe, take care, and I'll see you on Friday.